And I think that's why I like to share different pieces of information that are related to what they're going through in that moment, and then giving them the power and opportunity to choose how they want to move forward. It's very empowering, but it also helps integrate confidence, because you're so, some parents are very relaxed and go with the flow, and they kind of, take things as they come. But for the most of us as new parents, including myself, when I brought my baby home from the hospital, and I had a lot of hands-on experience with babies, but you question yourself.
Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we are actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can still all be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Imperfect Momming, and we have a very special guest today, Marisa Rodriguez. Welcome to Imperfect Momming.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. My name is Marisa Rodriguez, and I am the founder of Luxe Baby Custom Newborn Care. We support new and expecting families when they bring their babies home from the hospital, and we help them get ready to prepare for all that's coming. And we support families local to Phoenix, but we support families nationwide as well with our remote services.
You know what I think the best part about this job is that if you have baby fever, you don't have to keep having your own.
Boy, if that isn't the truth, because I was a one and done, because I'm the oldest of 10, and we had twins smack in the middle. And that was when I was about a teenager in high school, and I was helping mom at night at times get, bottles ready and do all the things. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot as a mom. And when you have, I don't care if you have one or you have 10, it comes with all of its own unique challenges. It's very interesting to see the different dynamics with the families that I work for. It's a very unique situation, and I'm very thankful to be able to be there and support, because as a new mom, once upon a time myself, I completely understand the need to have support, whether it's in person or just somebody, a lifeline to reach out on the phone and say, am I hurting my baby? Like, is this okay?
Is this normal? Help me.
I know. Yes. So even myself, with all the baby experience that I had, that 0 to 3 months is like a world all in its own. And so you hit so many different walls that you're not prepared for. And so that's something that we come in and support families with. That's very needed.
Yeah. And with being, a mom of, or the oldest of 10 or 9 kids, right? Like you got your practice in. This job was created for you.
Yes. Yes, who knew that one day this would be my path?
I'm sure like teenage version of you is like, seriously.
No, I fought it. I fought it real hard.
Sure. So what are like some common things that and then what's like the strangest thing? So like what are the common things that moms deal with, and then I want to hear like the strangest story that ever happened.
I would say the most common is getting home, and I think a lot of families, it's amazing to me how little education and support we get before we leave the hospital. I feel that if you're in a birth center, or you have a doula or a midwife, you're, I think, prepared a little bit more than the average family. But there's so much that they don't talk about. They don't talk about how to keep your baby from, getting jaundice and how to ward that situation off. They don't talk about safe sleep. A lot of families even get home and are like, how often should we feed the baby? So families are like, oh, we need to feed them at night, like throughout the night. It's just unreal to see these things that are very common for new families, because they just don't have the support and education before they get home with the baby. I would say, as far as like the strangest thing, I'd say more disturbing is the misinformation that families think, oh, we're waiting, it's like the baby is 2 days old, and they're like, oh no, we're on this schedule. Okay, but your baby is crying right now and needs to eat. Oh, but the clock. So sometimes they don't understand that you need to listen to your baby versus what the clock says, especially in those beginning weeks, because their number one job is to eat so that they can grow and thrive and be healthy. So it is really interesting to see the things that I can walk into, and sometimes very dangerous situations. And so finding the right way to share the information, and also it's a liability, or can be a liability. So I just have to say, I completely respect you as a parent, but for safety reasons, I can't use this device, or I can't use this method. So we just kind of come to, an agreement. And a lot of times they just don't know. And they're not doing anything wrong. They just don't know. So part of my job is to bring awareness, but in a very supportive way, because at the end of the day, I want to respect the parents, because they are the parents and they get to make the decisions. But there are so many different ways to care for a baby and a parent. So sometimes I just give the information and let them decide, and then we'll move forward with what they're comfortable with. But sometimes after a little bit, or maybe a couple of nights, they realize, they see it for themselves during the day, and they're like, oh, we completely see what you were talking about. But until you are in it, it's hard to comprehend sometimes.
Yeah. And I like that you do, give them the information and allow them to decide for themselves, but then you also have a boundary of what's a hard no for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, because I am responsible for this little being, and they're relying on me for that. So I have to, I also have to do what's in the best interest of the baby. And sometimes that is different from the parents' needs. And it's hard to bring that full circle so that they can connect. And that's another part of my job that's so special, is helping the parents and the baby come together, and kind of the families understand the baby's needs and the baby feel that.
Yeah. I've been a surrogate 4 times, and the last time was twins. And but there's there had been, up until the twins, a very clear line of, I'm not the mom takes the baby. So once they're out of my body, then my job is done, with the exception of I would pump and give the breast milk if the mom wanted it. If they didn't, then I would donate it. But when I had the twins, I had a C-section, which was also a first, and the mom and the twins were in the room with me, because the babies weren't released yet, and the mom typically would have a room because she had just given birth, but that was me. So she's in the room with me. They didn't have a separate room with her. And I was totally fine with this.
Sure.
But it gave me a different perspective for moms who have C-sections, because I, like, in the past, it was like, baby's out, baby's gone. I get to sleep now and I get to rest and recover. And that didn't happen when that's exactly what my body needed. And so it was just this whole thing of like, oh my gosh, moms have to do this. Like,
Yeah.
And especially with twins, most of the time twins, I would imagine, are born from with a C-section. And so, it's having somebody like you out there helping moms with or without C-sections is just incredible, because I think that we need help, and it's the only, it's the most important job you ever have, that's on the job training.
Absolutely. And it is interesting because people say, well, you've been doing this for so long, you're seasoned, that you're an expert. And sure, I do know a lot and I've learned so much, but I see new things sometimes in my jobs. A baby showing me something that I'm like, whoa, what is that? I haven't seen that before. Or the parents will have some new, gadget to use or app. And so I'm always learning. This is definitely a job where you never stop learning and growing. And so that is super exciting for me. And it's a great way to continue supporting families in areas that are new for me.
Yeah. And I think it's important that, I really want to know how people find you with to work with you.
Sure. The majority of ways of how people find me are through referrals, clients, colleagues. And right now I'm starting to kind of market and advertise a little bit, because I've a couple of years ago, I was speaking to a lot of families locally, and they just were like, we didn't even know somebody like you existed. We didn't know. And I was like, well, why did you wait so long when you did find support? And they're like, well, because we had some trips, and I was like, well, there are newborn care specialists that will travel with you. And they're like, well, we didn't even know that was an option. So, obviously I have my website, and the way that, reach out through our website, DM me on Instagram. But that's right now is the majority ways of how people are finding me.
So you're like the best kept secret that's out there.
A little bit, yes.
Because I'm pretty sure that I don't know a single mom, not like a single mom, but like a solitary mom who wouldn't have, single moms too, but who wouldn't have appreciated you being there, helping, supporting, answering questions, because I think Google's the worst thing that you could have as a new mom.
Agreed. It can be so daunting and overwhelming, and it doesn't matter whether you've handled babies or you haven't handled babies. The best of moms that are new or they have experience, or they're new again moms, there's just information overload, and it's very overwhelming.
Yeah.
And misinforming in many cases.
Yeah, because once upon a time we had books, and there were quote unquote experts who wrote these books, and that was, in some ways bad enough, because we are not taught as we grow up to listen to our own intuition and to take what resonates and leave the rest. That's not something that we're taught. So we pick an expert for whatever reason we pick them, and we listen to every single thing that they say to do, and sometimes it's not the best thing to do. But
Right.
now anybody who has a computer and some tech skills can put out information, and algorithms will share that information with you. And so the information isn't vetted. It's not like, and again, we don't have this idea of take what resonates and leave the rest, or try it and find out. And if it doesn't work, or if it doesn't feel right or whatever, we don't have that. And so we keep doing things. Like, I'm pretty sure we can all agree that the cry it out method is not the best thing for babies.
Absolutely not.
And like and I've heard many stories of moms that are like, okay, I tried cry it out and I just could not do it.
Right.
And, you know, and that's your intuition talking. You know, but some moms just don't have that they don't have the trust in themselves, I think.
Yes.
And so they listen to somebody who knows better, and I'm using air quotes if you're not watching the video. You know, and that's and that it, in any area of our life, not just being a mom, it's dangerous to just hand over your autonomy to anyone and not listen to.
Absolutely. And I think that's why I like to share different pieces of information that are related to what they're going through in that moment, and then giving them the power and opportunity to choose how they want to move forward. It's very empowering, but it also helps integrate confidence, you know, because you're so, you know, some parents are very relaxed and go with the flow, and they kind of, you know, take things as they come. But for the most of us as new parents, including myself, when I brought my baby home from the hospital, and I had a lot of hands-on experience with babies, but you question yourself, you know, you're unsure, you're second guessing everything. And that's why I feel like something that we do in the very beginning, when I arrive to a home, whether or, you know, have a meeting with the family, is giving them all the tips on how to really lean into their baby's needs, how to understand what they're saying with their body, with their sounds, with their cries. Because crying and fussing, and making different sounds, they all mean different things. And so while many have decided or have tried a cry it out method, that can be very it can be very damaging in some cases, because if your baby is crying, if they're fussing, you know, and they're having a hard time winding down, is a huge difference from crying hysterically and sobbing, because babies are biologically programmed to cry when they have a need. So they're expressing themselves. And imagine how it feels for us if we were super upset and none of our loved ones came to check on us or see if we were okay. It doesn't feel good. And imagine how it feels for a little baby who doesn't understand or doesn't know that anybody is going to come. And if they don't, how does that really feel? It's not a good feeling.
Yeah, and I know that, like, I mean, I what I will say about the cry it out method is that I'd never read the book or listened to the doctor or anything. I never had any the only thing that I know about cry it out is word of mouth, and the name is pretty obvious, right?
Yeah.
And so there's something that we also have to remember when we're doing research and gaining the information, is that you got to go to the source, not just listen to the friend of the friend of the friend who told you about it.
Yes.
Because and I would say you're as close to going to the source too. I'm not saying don't listen to you.
Sure.
Because,
no, absolutely.
You've done the research, and you're giving them options too, and you're explaining the things, right? I read Intuitive Eating, which is a book that has had multiple iterations of it too. And if you go on Facebook and you look for an intuitive eating Facebook group, you got to be careful, because there's a lot of people that took the one part of the book that said just eat whatever you want,
Right.
and they live on that. But if that's not exactly intuitive eating, that's just eating whatever you want.
Well, that's why I tell families, it's like, you can read the information, but then you also have to look at what's going on with your baby. So maybe, is your baby ready to start sleeping longer stretches? Is your baby eating less at night? Are they weaning themselves from feeds? Because if your baby is having feeding issues or health issues, any underlying health issues or feeding issues, and they're not consuming their daily calories, they're definitely not going to be sleeping. You're definitely going to have an interrupted night. But until those things have been taken care of, you can't move forward with sleep conditioning or any kind of sleep training. So because the baby isn't physically or emotionally ready. Yeah.
And I learned from a previous guest a couple episodes ago that there is a huge difference between a breastfed baby and a bottle-fed baby, whether or not they're waking up in the middle of the night. And it's like, there's just so many nuances that you can listen to other people who are well-meaning people in your community. And I'm always talking about, like, we need community, but we also need to listen to advice through filtered ears.
Yes, because what's working for one, like, you can talk to your girlfriend and you could have your babies were born on the same day, for example, but the babies are not hitting milestones at the same time. That one's sleeping great and the other one is just having a really, a big struggle. And there's a reason for that. So you have to really tap into what's going on with your baby and why, and its personal needs and development, because it doesn't equate. What's working for one baby might not work for your baby. And so that's something else that you really have to look at. And babies are not little machines where we can just, okay, we're going to do this, and that. Okay. But if you follow what your baby is showing you and you're like following its natural sleep patterns, for example, and eating patterns and giving it what it needs when it needs it, that's when you're going to get those bigger stretches and longer stretches of sleep. And it just gets better and better and better. But you have to listen to your baby, not just be following something that your friend is following or that you saw online. We have a much deeper understanding of newborns and their needs than before, just taking care of them, but really looking at them as a little person and understanding them and their needs, because they're communicating with you. And people don't understand that. It's hard, I think, for people to make that connection.
Yeah, I think the biggest disservice that we've been fed in our culture is that crying is manipulation, or that manipulation is bad. Because manipulation is just trying to get what you need.
Yeah, I mean, babies don't know how to manipulate. They're just crying because they have a need. And, for those that say, oh, we're letting them cry because they need to learn or it's going to help them become independent. No, it's not. Babies don't need to learn. They need to be taken care of in the beginning. And it's our job to learn what the baby needs and tap into that. Absolutely.
What they learn is that their needs aren't getting met.
Yeah, I mean, and then they're like, well, sometimes I'll arrive and they'll be like, oh, the baby has been crying all day. We just don't know what's going on. And it's not that anybody's doing anything wrong. I'd be like, well, let me see, what's happening. What are you doing? And they're like, well, we'd love to watch you and see, because they're so calm with you. So I will just let them, kind of watch and how I handle the baby. And they'll be like, oh, look at when she does that. He loves that, and then they'll show me what they were doing. And I was like, okay, so now you can see as you're doing it, He's getting very upset. And it's just a matter sometimes of changing positions. Maybe they have a delayed burp. Maybe they have another half an hour before the clock says they need to eat, but they're just hungry, just like us. Sometimes we need a snack, or sometimes we get hungry sooner than our average dinner time or meal time. Babies are no different, and they need to be taken care of when their needs arise, regardless of what the clock says sometimes.
I love that. Just little tweaks and just act, assess, adjust.
Yeah, it is. It's just little tweaks. And a lot of times, even something as simple as you could go online and read, for example, how do I soothe my baby? Oh, the 5 S's. And they may run the gamut and go through all 5 of the, soothing methods and be like, oh my God, this isn't working. They don't like any of it. Well, a lot of it has to do with technique. So soft, gentle, soothing. I mean, it's amazing how you could have a baby that's very upset and you just maybe check their diaper, swaddle them, and go into a dark room and shush them. They just start to their body, because they don't know how to self-regulate. And they have no control over their emotions. They're just feeling what they're feeling, and they're expressing themselves through crying, which is the only way that they can. So tapping into that is also magical, really.
Yeah. And also assessing how you're feeling, because a lot of times babies are picking up on your energy and your emotion. And if their crying is stressing you out, then it could feed more into the crying. So you have to check in with yourself too and see, where are you? And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a huge thing. Babies feel your nervousness, they feel your frustration, and that's going to make them escalate versus calming down, handing off, to a partner. And if no one's there with you and you're alone, something that I even practiced was just putting the baby down, count to 30, count to 20, count to 30, and then pick the baby up. It, believe it or not, can be very effective as well.
Cool. I like that tip. So at what point do moms or couples contact you? Are they just about to give birth, or like what point do you have a consultation with them?
Sure. I mean, primarily it's way in advance. People book out months in advance. I think I would say, I think 6-7 months is the longest that I've been booked out. But then, sometimes you get a call or a text at 11 p.m. saying, we just had our baby and getting home, and, we're exhausted. So it can come and look in, a lot of different ways. But for the majority, people are looking for us in advance. And a lot of people don't know that they should start looking for us in advance, because we get booked out. We get booked right away, and we may have to send them to a referral or refer somebody. But yes, the sooner the better, because you want to be prepared. It takes time to find the person that you feel good with and comfortable. I mean, this is a very vulnerable situation. We're in your home, we're in your personal space. You're relying on us very heavily. And so the way that we support you is very important. And ask all the questions, because we all work, while we do the same job in many cases, we all work a little differently. And we follow different methods. For example, for myself, I am adhered to respectful and responsive care and use gentle methods only. So intuitive care is my primary methodology.
I love that. Is there a piece of advice that you want to share with moms?
I think for moms, I would let them know that follow your intuition, whether it's right or wrong, or you're getting all this outside noise, shut it down and just have a moment with your baby and think about how are you feeling and what do you feel you should do in that moment, and follow that, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But learning to listen to yourself and your intuition, and also when somebody else is giving you advice about your baby and you're like, no, I'm not seeing that, I don't agree with that. Don't, just like I said, cancel that out and just do what you feel is right. And if you feel like you need support, reach out to somebody that can support you and help you. But definitely lean into what you're feeling and listen to that, because it's going to serve you at the end of the day. We're all learning. There's no book that comes with step-by-step instructions on how to parent and how to take care of a baby. There are a lot of different ways to do that. So once you tap into kind of how you want to move forward, what your methodology or your parenting challenges are, that will help you move forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is there a book that has been instrumental in your personal development journey?
So I have struggled. So like a lot of great books, obviously, that I've read, but I have struggled even recently to find that one magical book that gives all the right, advice. I'd say that it would be a series of books and research and classes and courses that I've done over the years that have helped me really dive into where I'm at right now and how I feel about the type of care and support that I give to families. So sometimes reading a book, that's another thing I would tell new parents. You can read the book, but take away what serves you. Like in all the books I've read, I take all the gentle stuff, and everything else is just got to go away. And I take all of that, and it has helped me really to learn how to care for babies intuitively. It's something that you can't really learn with a book or through a book. You can get the information, but then you have to have the babies. So through all these jobs and working with all these babies, and not just the babies, but the families as well, learned so many invaluable lessons in how to better myself and better the type of care and support that I give to families and babies.
I love that. Sometimes it's just a collection of books, and there's no specific one. And then where can our listeners find you specifically so they could reach out and ask questions or whatever it is that they want to do?
Absolutely. They can find me on my website, luxebabycare.com. And they also can find me on Instagram at luxebabycare, and that's Luxe, Luxe.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming and being the wealth of knowledge that you are, and sharing for moms who are listening who wish they had you when their babies were young, and the moms to be that can contact you in the future. So
thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So we'll have another episode of Imperfect Momming for you all coming next week. And until we meet again, keep healing. Bye, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids. Do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit AliciaLyons.com. That's ALYSIALYONS.com. See you next time.